Hi again guys, and welcome to another look back, of course, to the first game in the Forza franchise, Forza Motorsport 1, obviously, and this car is not necessarily quite as obvious a vehicle to feature as something like the previous one was, for instance, the CLK GTR, because with cars like that in various Forza games, you kind of think, why did they get rid of that? And more often than not, it's probably licensing issues, but with some cars, they kind of just slip away without you really noticing. And this is definitely one of those, because the Corvette, of course, has always been a part of Forza. In fact, it's a part of most racing games. And over the years, we've had a lot of different models of the Corvette featured in Forza as well. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why, A, we do not see this version in the game anymore, and B, why, although it is sad in a general sense not to have this one anymore, it's actually not too much of a car to give up, because the newer ones are even better. Now, of course, I'm all for keeping the slower models around sometimes because, as I've mentioned numerous times, for instance, my favourite Koenigsegg is the slowest model, the CC8S. My favourite Panos is the standard Esperante, so I will quite often choose the entry-level car as my favourite. And I know most people aren't that way, but it certainly is for me. So for me, of course, I love the fact that the C6 Corvette is in the game, but for people in general, I do recognise that most would choose a Z06, certainly a ZR1 over this pretty much any day, even if you do have the option of both. Now, obviously, the ZR1 was not out yet. That was introduced, if I recall correctly, I think in Forza 3 as a VIP car, and then pretty much standard issue after that. And, of course, the Z06 is arguably the best all-rounder, because although it's not purely as powerful or as fast in a straight line as the ZR1 is, it's a lot more attainable. Significantly cheaper. You can do a lot more to it, whereas the ZR1 is already a pretty finely honed car, very specifically set up, just like the Viper ACR is, whereas the Z06 is a bit more like a Viper SRT10. It's more of a blank canvas. Whereas this one, of course, is more like a Viper RT10, the original 90s one, pure, smooth sports car shape. You can do a ton of work to it, very responsive to tuning, and it is even more so of a blank canvas. Now, in terms of what the car gives you, for 66 grand, which straight off the bat is very good for a car of this caliber, easily undercuts a lot of Euro rivals in particular, from Lambo, Ferrari, etc. It's also a lot lighter than a lot of those. Mercs, Jags, Astons, they're significantly heavier. This is a very healthy 1,442 kilos. That's very good. In fact, that's sometimes lighter even than something like a newer shape Audi TT Quattro. And of course, being a Corvette, you're pretty much guaranteed a V8, rear-wheel drive, manual gearbox, more often than not at least, pretty good aerodynamics and a ton of tuning potential, considering it has pretty much the most popular basic performance engine in the world, in terms of how many are sold and how tunable they are. This one, for instance, you're looking at 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet, of course naturally aspirated, there's no turbo, no supercharger, so it's got a ton of potential. And again, that is exponentially more with the other Corvettes, the ones that are already more powerful, like 500 horsepower in the Z06, over 600 horsepower in the ZR1, etc. People routinely tune these Corvettes to over 1,000, so it's a fantastic engine. But one of my favourite things about the C6 shape, including this one, actually, is that unlike the C5 Corvette in particular, where I know this could be controversial for Corvette fans, but I would say even in its top form, basically the Z06, disregarding the special editions, it was still kind of just a sports car. That's where it basically ended. It was a very good sports car, but that was its limit. This entry-level C6 already has better performance and more power than the Z06 had of the previous C5 generation. And for an entry-level model, that's very good. Now, of course, as I said, the other models are faster, but that is by no means to say that this is slow. You're still looking up around 170, 180 miles per hour. 0 to 60 is, what, 4.5 seconds? It's not exactly slow. It can quite easily outpace a lot of other sports cars, certainly ones which are a similar price. And again, America and Asia, when it comes to performance cars, both offer fantastic bang for buck. Asian performance cars tend to be very good all-rounders for the money, whereas American cars, their forte at least, is giving you a huge amount of power and torque for the money, and of course a pretty big engine as well. This one not so much, it's no Viper, that's for sure, but one of my favourite things about the Corvettes, as I was alluding to earlier, is the pedigree. And this is something which the Viper does not have, and which it will never have, purely because it's a newer machine, the much younger rival of the two, because the Corvette has such a long and star-studded history of racing. It's such a good car in all of its forms, numerous exploits, speed versions, racing versions, experimental versions like the Sledgehammer. This one is such a good all-rounder, the C6 I mean in general. It's a fantastic performance platform to work from, and although of course as you can see in the vid you can easily get the tail out, of course it's a sports car at the end of the day. Half of the goal is purely fun rather than just being the fastest thing out there, and that's actually probably the one thing that I would encourage players to remember about this Corvette in particular, and that is because it's the entry level. You could make a pretty strong argument that more so than any other C6 in the line, this one is designed more so for fun than for performance. With the Z06, it's much more geared towards being very fast and very good, and even more so with the ZR1. With this one, it's more about the fun. It is the entry-level model, it has the least power, it's never going to break the lap times that the other ones do, and it's not trying to. That's the point. It's a pure, smooth, clean sports car experience, and for that I really like it. So if you do decide to use this Corvette in the game, it's pretty much the only time in the whole Forza franchise that you can do so. So savour the experience if, like me, you are a Corvette fan, and it certainly offers a lot for the money. But overall, that's it for this pick. Of course, I will see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.